When you think of the blues scale, this probably isn't what comes to your mind first. This is my new single, On the Brink of Madness, and in it I use the simple minor blues scale as the foundation for a bunch of crazy prog metal riffs. Let's take a look at how I did this. The minor pentatonic scale and the blues scale are probably the most used scales in all of modern music. As a guitarist, they're the first scales you learn, so many riffs and licks are built from them, and so many incredible and famous musicians have made their entire careers off of just playing the blues scale. Like anything in music though, the blues scale has a lot more hiding inside of it than you might think, and we can exploit this scale for some pretty crazy stuff. The minor blues scale is the minor pentatonic scale with an added flat 5. In E minor, the minor pentatonic scale is E, G, A, B, D, or 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. We add in the flat 5, B flat, and we get E, G, A, B flat, B, D, or 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, flat 7. There is a major blues scale as well, but for this lesson we're focused just on the minor blues scale because it's more common, and because we're playing metal, so we're not going to do a ton of major scales. The minor blues scale is at its core a minor sound. It has a minor chord as its root chord, 1, flat 3, 5, and a minor 7th chord as its root 7th chord, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. But the blues scale and the minor pentatonic scale are not traditional 7-note scales like a major scale, or the natural or harmonic minor scales. It doesn't have the same functionality. It doesn't have any half steps in it. Pentatonic scales don't have these half steps that want to resolve up or down. They're more of an open sound, which is why they work so well in so many different styles of music and over so many different types of chords. And the blues scale functions very much the same way because this added note, the flat 5, it's really just a passing note. So it's not adding any of that major scale functionality back into the pentatonic. The blues scale is most often associated with the blues, of course, but also with rock music. It also works incredibly well in jazz and funk and gospel and country and almost any style of modern music, but it's not a scale you first think of when it comes to the world of prog rock and metal. That doesn't mean it can't be useful though, or that it can't create some really great sounds. I'm all about taking something that seems basic and stretching it as far as I possibly can, and that's part of what I tried to do in On the Brink of Madness. The first element of the blues scale I wanted to focus on is that flat 5. The interval of a flat 5 is also referred to as a tritone because it is 3 whole steps away from our root note. And the tritone is an infamous interval for that dark, evil sound, often referred to, wrongly, as the devil's interval. It does evoke that evil metal sound though. The song Black Sabbath, for example, one of the first heavy metal songs of all time, really leans into this tritone. So by focusing on the tritone, I can instantly make the blues scale sound a little darker. The other part of the blues scale I want to exploit are the half steps, where the pentatonic scale has no half steps. Once I add in that flat 5, I have 2 different half steps, from the 4 to flat 5, and then from the flat 5 to the 5. And I can use these in dissonant ways by bringing them together like that, as half steps, or I can even do them an octave apart for some more disgusting sounding intervals like that. The first thing I actually wrote for On the Brink of Madness was this lead part. This is just a minor arpeggio with an added flat 5. And that sound is what I ran with when I started to put together this full song. Here's the very beginning of the song. In this opening measure, I'm already using both of the ideas I talked about. I'm playing the half steps, as well as focusing on that tritone interval. Notice how I'm using both of these half steps back to back here as well. Some of you music theory nerds might have also noticed this shape in here. This is a diminished chord or a diminished arpeggio. A diminished chord is built by taking a minor chord and flatting the fifth. So we have 1, flat 3, flat 5. I already talked about how the minor pentatonic and the minor blues scales have a minor chord in them. But by adding that flat 5, we can build a diminished chord in the blues scale. And diminished chords are dissonant and dark sounding, and they get used all the time in metal. They also have a much less stable sound than a minor chord. So by leaning into this sound, I can create that unsettled feeling. In the second verse of the song, I use the half-step dissonances of the blues scale for this lead part. There's some other notes in here as well, which I'll cover later, but I love using that minor second dissonance. Now that we've talked about the basic blues scale, let's make one small addition to it that will expand our options even further. I'm going to add in the major 6 to the blues scale. In the key of E, that would be a C sharp. So we're going to have E, G, A, B flat, B, C sharp, D, or 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, 6, flat 7. The major 6 is a very common addition to the blues scale. It could be looked at as being from the Dorian mode. Or as coming from our parallel major pentatonic. So in the blues, it's really common to mix minor and major pentatonic. So in this case, E major and E minor. So E major pentatonic has that C sharp in it. And of course, the minor pentatonic does not. It's a very common blues sound to mix in some of those major sounds. So the C sharp could be looked at as coming from that as well. But there's one important thing this note adds for us in the context of heavier, darker music, and that is the fully diminished 7th chord. A diminished 7th chord is built by stacking intervals of a minor third on top of each other, or 3 half steps. On a guitar, I can go 3 frets at a time. And I've built a diminished 7th chord. In the key of E, that would be E, G, B flat, and D flat, although I'm going to call it C sharp in this case. But the distance between all of these notes is a minor third. The diminished 7th chord is a symmetrical chord, meaning I can take a shape and move it up and down a minor third, and all of the notes of the chord will remain the same, just in a different order. The diminished 7th chord is one of the most used chords in metal. Think like Yngwie Malmsteen. And also like tons of tech death and crazy death metal as well uses a lot of diminished 7th chords because it's so easy to play on the guitar. You can move things around symmetrically and it works perfectly, but it also has that really dark sound to it. Let's take a look at the full intro from the song. Earlier I talked about the very beginning of this, but look what I can do now that I've added this major 6th. I can take this first shape and move it up 3 frets, and it's still falling within that blues scale with the added major 6. And now I have another half step I can use from the 6 to flat 7, as well as these diminished 7th arpeggios. And that will finish off the intro. You could also add the major 2nd into this scale, and I'm going to get a Dorian mode with the added flat 5, sort of a Dorian blues scale. And that's actually a scale I use quite a bit when I'm playing, but I didn't really add that 2nd into any of the riffs in this particular song. That major 6 was enough for me to kind of take this scale a little further. The symmetrical nature of the diminished 7th chord also makes it pretty easy to switch keys up or down a minor third pretty seamlessly. There are multiple sections of this song where I use this to move between the key of G minor and E minor, which are a minor third apart. Going into the solo, for example, I use this lick up a minor third to get into the key of G minor. And then I'm jumping back and forth instantaneously between E minor and G minor in the second verse. As well as the end of the bridge. Writing music, though, of course, is not just an avenue for exploring theoretical concepts and sticking inside of one scale. You can do whatever you want, as long as it sounds good. And throughout the course of these blues-based sections of the song, I am adding in some different notes. I have the flat 2, F, and the major third that happen in this first riff. And there's these chromatically descending ideas in the second verse, as well as at the end of the bridge. And while I did build a lot of the riffs off of this blues scale foundation, large portions of this song use a more traditional chord progression approach. The choruses, solo, and the bridge, I really like that contrast between these weird bluesy riffs and the more melodic approach. It's all about balance when I'm writing a song like this. I'll even bring in this more chord-based approach into the riffs in some spots. In this first riff section, I have these G major 7 and B flat major 7 chords that work as a transition idea between one part of the riff to the next. So I'm not locked into having to use the blues scale, but I also have it as a foundation I can go back to if I want. There's one last example here that pushes the blues scale to the extreme. This is the big crazy riff from the end of the song, and it's almost entirely from the blues scale. Now, I will be doing a separate lesson on how to play this, as well as how I put it together next week, but here I want to take a look at the note choices. Once again, there's an emphasis on the half steps, as well as this tritone interval with these chords, even some of that diminished seventh sound by sliding these tritone chords. There's also some outside notes. We have the major 7th, D sharp, and that major 6th. There's also this chromatic ascending line. And even a fully diminished 7th arpeggio to end it off. And this final breakdown riff brings all of these ideas together. You have the half-step legato, the major 6, and these low, disgusting tritone power chords. About as dark and heavy as you can get for a riff built almost entirely from the blues scale. So that's how I took the blues scale and turned it into some crazy over-the-top prog metal. I think it's really fun to explore a basic sound like the blues scale and see what kind of things you can draw from it. I love exploring weird chords and scales as much as anyone, but there's a lot you can get from these simple ideas if you're willing to push it beyond its normal usage. Hopefully some of these concepts were useful for you. On the Brink of Madness is available now on all major streaming services and on my Bandcamp. I also have tabs available for sale. Links to all of that is down below. And consider joining here as a channel member for some extra perks if you'd like. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Till then, stay proggy.